Matt, our head of testing, David from TechRadar, and of course Diana from Life Science. So, the gang's all together. We're going to talk about Star Trek Picard, episode 6. Yeah, a lot of stuff happened. All right.
Action packed.
Yeah. So we and just a really quick recap for our friends that are watching now. If you have some questions, please pop them in the chat. We'll try to get to them too. But we saw in episode 6, The Impossible Walks, the crew of La Sirena with Picard and his gang arrive at the artifact, the Borg cube, looking for Soji. They find her. Antics ensue. Lots of stuff. Let's start with Kelly. What did you think, Kelly?
I thought it was great. Action packed, like I said. I really loved seeing Picard interact with Q and experience all this PTSD. There's a lot of emotions going on.
Picard, who was once assimilated
yes.
by the Borg.
So yeah, great episode, I thought.
Matt?
As we were talking about before we started, I thought it was a vast improvement over Stardust City Rag, which I truly hated. I still think that it's the first time I've been on the show, so I haven't said this before. I think there's a lot of story drift. I think they're kind of all over the place, and you really need to focus it a lot better. I liked it more toward the end when they started getting. We're okay with spoilers, right?
Yeah.
When they started getting more into the Borg ship and dealing with sort of the repercussions of things that had happened in the past, like running Voyager, and obviously a lot of Next Generation stuff. I like that more. A lot of junk in the middle. I thought I wasn't wowed overall, but it was better than where they've been the last couple of weeks.
Diana?
Yeah, definitely love visiting Picard's past and seeing Q again. I think that was my very favorite moment. But overall, I thought this episode had so much more energy, the right kind of energy that I was looking for. And, it's also great, too, because I felt like there were a lot of elements in this episode that kind of called back to First Contact. And a lot of Picard's views of the Borg and how there's drastically changed. He just seems like a completely different Picard. All those elements are great. I thought this was a great episode.
Dave?
Same. I really enjoyed it. I mean, there are enough callbacks with context for someone like me who hasn't watched a lot of Next Generation and specifically like Borg elements, but to have like this be the turn for like a lot of characters to pay off for Picard and pay off for even Elnor to just like satisfy a lot of these things they said they wanted to do, and boom, here we are. Even there, like finally reveals who he is. It's like cool, great. We can stop like dragging our feet on this plot line.
Yeah, that was actually, I have to say, especially with not just Stardust, but the episode prior to that was like the most least favorite plot line was Soji and Tariq. Hey, they're still there doing their undercover affair thing on the Borg cube. It's like no one's working on that Borg cube. But I want to talk about the Borg cube itself because it sounds like a lot of folks here enjoyed seeing just the action there. And we've got a lot of things. This is called the Impossible Box. The episode itself. So is the box Soji's brain? Is it the cube? Is it this weird Romulan Rubik's Cube thing that you can put deadly assassin stuff inside? Like a lot of different layers. And one of the scenes I like the most is if you truly watching in the background, you can see the cube is still shifting. The walls are changing just really subtly inside, and you've got these XBs, these ex-Borg, who are there, I guess, kind of. They're not free.
Hanging around.
Yeah, Hugh mentions that he's a Federation citizen, so he can leave if he wants, but they can't. They're kind of stuck on this abandoned cube when they're after de-assimilated. What are we calling that? They're rescued, reclaimed.
Yeah,
that's right. It's the Borg reclamation project. That's right. So I'm just curious about that whole point of it, the Borg cube itself. What your thoughts were, kind of seeing Picard. He clearly is affected. Now, we saw in First Contact, he was like all battle action in that movie when he's on the Borg cube fighting the Queen. Here, he seems like a different person. Maybe because he's older? I don't know, Kelly, you had some thoughts on that.
I think in First Contact, he's in battle mode, like you said, whereas in the cube, it's more time for reflection. But yeah, I think maybe age has something to do with it. And maybe just seeing sort of the cube not in action, like not fully operational, is kind of weird for him.
It's weird to see it empty, where everyone is kind of off doing their own thing, and he's just in a waiting room, per se. and he almost, I guess, falls down, and he's rescued by these XPs too. So, what about Diana?
Yeah, you know, like in First Contact, he was clearly, it was something that stuck with me, that experience of being accused, but I think that's looking around and seeing that there are other victims here who are feeling the same way probably he did, and having the same PTSD. I think that kind of put things in perspective for me. That's why it's a little different. And yes, the element of being older is comedy a bit as well, but yeah, I mean, of course, seeing him and how far he's come along, I'm sure also played into his change of heart.
Hugh is like the first person on this show that is genuinely happy to see Picard.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is like, "Oh, I hate that guy."
What he's doing here,
you know?
Or it's complex, like it's Elnor and Picard just insists on being like a bad babysitter and not being there for his growth at all. But yeah, his relationship with Hugh is awesome. I love that like Hugh actually has a reason to be grateful for him instead of this kind of like myth supplanting, you know, that everyone else seems to be doing. Like Rios, like, is definitely a little bit too starstruck by Picard, especially given his history in this like post Next Generation sort of timeline.
We still want to find out more about that whole history of what's going on with Rios. Yeah.
that's true. Well, I was just gonna thought popped into my head is now that we know that, well, I guess Guinan will be coming back. And she was very much, when we first met Hugh in Next Generation, very much against the Borg being on the ship because her people were completely decimated by the Borg. And she warmed up to him. I wonder if they'll get to have an interaction in season 2. That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, so this is episode 6. We've got 4 episodes left.
I'm
So I guess the big question is this going to be like one plot and done? We've got a lot of time to resolve this, so I want to reserve judgment on that. I did want to ask about Picard as a person. We talked about Rios being starstruck with him. It sounds like the Borg are a little starstruck with him as well as Locutus. Now, like Picard is struggling in the episode to deal with his Locutus past. You actually hear whispers like, "Is it him?" You know, and I'm just wondering, maybe Matt, you know, what do you think? Is he as famous in the Borg lexicon as he is in the Federation?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't interpret it quite that way. I didn't even think about it that way. That's a fascinating way to think about it. I thought of it as more, he was part of the collective, and they recognized like one of their own is coming back. That when he was Locutus, he was part of them, and they're like, we haven't been whole without him. Now he's back. Is he actually coming back, or is he still gone? Is the way that I took it, and there was a lot of that in Voyager, that idea that sort of came out with regards to the 7 and 9 arc, which, as we were also talking about, how we get back to, because that would seem to have really strong parallels to what happened with both Hugh and Picard, and I would like to see that further developed. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point that I hadn't considered before now. So.
Yeah, it seemed like Picard, when they arrive at the cube, you can see that anger, and he doesn't want to go. He really doesn't want to go, but he knows that he has to go. He hates the Borg. They metastasize. They're never changing. And then when he gets on board, he's getting the tour with Hugh, and he's realizing that they're not just faceless machines. That they were people once. They're people again, but they're not able to leave. And I sense, and this could be just wishful thinking, but it seems like those Borg really want some help. More than what they're getting, and they're hoping that now Locutus, who they know was different, right? He was that bridge between the Federation and the Borg at one time, might be the person for them. I'm gonna come to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they see him as sort of the most successful XB, right? And maybe looking toward him as a leader, and especially maybe to get them off the ship, off the Borg cube.
Yeah.
Since they're stuck there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Did you have a thought?
Not really. I just think that, again, that there's a lot of interconnectedness between all of the different characters. And so far, the main sort of figures that we've seen are the ones that were removed from the collective. And so how each of them react to it differently between Hugh and Picard and 7 and 9, I think that has to play into it somehow. Especially given everything we know about Soji and her sort of relationship with the android side of it, which is coming at the same problem from an angle, in a way, without kind of the Borg aspect of it so much. I will be interested to see where that goes, but right now I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, Soji, that's a great point. So also, while Picard is dealing with his Borg demons, Soji is realizing that Narek isn't maybe the best boyfriend in the world, where he takes her on, like, I guess this Romulan walkabout, or a spirit walk, and is probing her dreams, which, by the way, yeah, she dreams, apparently, and trying to tap, I guess, to find out where she came from. And it seems like she finally realizes that it was a setup the entire time. I'm wondering, maybe, David, what do you think she was looking for on the cube? And do you think that her relationship with Narek is doomed?
I mean, it definitely, I think it's doomed, because she got into activation mode at the end and punched her way out. So I think at that point, her fight or flight is definitely saving her where her wherewithal is not. But I think I don't know why she's there, and I don't think we know, especially since so much of her programming is, subconscious. A lot of this, like, falls asleep in 70 seconds, by the instruction of whatever, like, mom contact sort of subroutines in her head.
I guess we should point out that this is the episode where she realizes that she's just barely over 3 years old, and everything she owns is only 3 years old. Her pictures, her little toy from when she was a kid. 37 months old. Everything. So she's got a lot of self-reflection going on there.
She does, and then, like, finally, all these pieces come into place, and then she gets used. Merrick, she finally realizes that Merrick, all he wanted was a location, right? And then he walks out on her, unveils the puzzle box, and then she gets activated. But thankfully she doesn't go as rogue as Dodge did, which is kind of nice, because it kind of fulfills this, like, we're here for a reason. Picard's here for a reason.
Yeah, and so Picard finally meets her. Rafi loses a bet to Rios over whether or not she was alive. I guess, Diana, what do you think?
Well, I also thought that that episode, the tone of it had this very creepy, dreamy state that the episode in Next Gen, when Data decides to discover his subconscious and he self-induces dreams, it kind of felt like that. It's kind of a mirror on that. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was very interesting. I thought, and once again, we're learning another piece about the Romulans that I guess we never knew about before, the Shalbach ritual of meditation, and but also learning that Romulans have a third name that they only disclose to their true love, unless that was all just a bunch of free, and he was just saying that to her.
He is a spy.
I mean, I don't trust
right?
him.
He is a spy.
But he gave her a name in the end, so I think he's a really good liar. It's just another really interesting piece of Romulan culture that we learned yet again.
Yeah, the look on his face. This is after he's, like, locked her in this I guess it's like a walkabout room, and it's filled with radiation from his tan jacran. That's the Rubik's Cube thing that he was put in with the whole episode. I'll be surprised if that and Soji's little doll aren't going to be products people can buy in the near future.
It's not going to sell it to you.
Yeah, probably not. So, but the look on his face suggests that he was there kind of doing it for his sister Narissa, not so much, for the Romulans or whatnot. He clearly does have feelings for Soji at this point, and I wonder if he even knew she could bust her way out there.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. And I think, even though he did lock her in there to die, I think he did that because he didn't want to actually kill her himself, like, with his hands. Because I do think he does care about her.
Yeah, well, I guess we've got 4 more episodes to find out just how much going on. There's some other stuff about okay, by the end of this episode, a couple of things happen. Picard escapes from the cube with Soji through a spatial projector in the Queen's chamber. Now, they don't actually call it that, but Hugh says that they absorb the technology from the Sakarans that the Borg had, and that is from Voyager.
Yes, the first season of Voyager.
Yeah, season 1, episode 10, according to our reviewer Scott Snowden. This nice, peaceful race, the Sakarans, who could transport to any planet within 40,000 light years, and of course the crew had to steal it, and they all get thrown off. So feel sad for them, but if they did get to keep it, then it would have ended that series 6 years ago. But so by the end of the episode, they're off going to the planet Nepentha, which is apparently from the food pathology app that you love forgetfulness. Yeah, that's
in the river Styx or Channels, it's one of the things that you a drought that you drink.
yeah. Oh, so David knows. I had to look it up from our review guy, Scott Slater. Thank you, Scott. But there's other stuff that's going on. I mean, Rafi, calls in some favors to get Picard on the cube. She's clearly drunk and smoking.
She's back on the sauce.
She is. She's smoking a pipe. It's an Orion pipe called a Horble, is what we found out.
Great. Classic name.
And she's back on the snake leaf. That's what she's smoking.
Mm-hmm.
It's we never leave any stone unturned to find out. But so she clearly isn't over yet her family drama.
She's not over her own drama, which is affecting her family, and that's why she's seeking solace, right? Which is, she's still competent, which is great. I love that lead clinic character, that aspect of her, but it's hard to see her relapse.
Was anyone else surprised that after she calls in this huge favor and just gets told by what we assume is a friend to never call me again, that she gets like an applause from Picard?
That was rough.
It's like, here she is, she's clearly having a hard time and is like burning her friends left and right, and they're like, yeah, that's great. Well done.
There's a part of this Picard that is very like, thank you for getting what I need out of you. And in the same way he treats Elnor, that is very like, how could you, why are you not doing what I need you to do?
Yeah.
It's so...
He's not a very good friend.
But he's a good
Rios
captain.
is a better friend.
Rios has some stuff. We found out here that he plays soccer, right? Very good. Looks nice. Shirt on,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I also found out from our reviewer, Scott Spoon, that Santiago Cabrera, the actor that played Rios, actually did play semi-pro soccer for Hampton and Richmond Grill. So that's where those chops came from. But Rios has some interesting dynamics with Dr. Jurati in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, when you first see him, he's got a huge gash, and he's tough, and then all of a sudden he's making all these relationships with various crew members, and he's really sweet to all of them, and he provides a need in some way to each one of them in a small way, anyway. And he's really such a sweetheart, and all of his different holograph, projections.
I miss them, right? We haven't seen
I
them.
know.
Where's the doctor since she turned him off?
Well, and that's actually my biggest thing with this episode is it's like, is there no documentation or any kind of I don't know, how do they not have a report on what she just did?
Yeah, so they don't know that Dr. Jurati basically killed her ex-boyfriend / work partner, Bruce Maddox. Apparently she doesn't care that much because she's making out with Rios. And
she's getting over it.
we were talking about it earlier. Should we call them Jurios or Riardi? I'm not sure what we should call them at this point.
Too soon.
So, okay.
Too early.
So yeah, I guess we have to find out if there's going to be any kind of payoff. So surely someone is looking into the records of what happened with the medical hologram. That guy was really into everyone's health for the first 4 episodes of the show. So
Maybe she disabled him. Where is he?
Yeah.
Who knows?
She is a crafty engineer type,
Yes.
so I'm willing to bet she probably just happened.
I had another flag about Jurati that I wanted to ask you all, because when they approached the Borg cube, she says, should we just pose as scientists because I have like the cred? But then she's visibly relieved that she doesn't have to go on the cube, which I thought for an AI researcher, someone that is trying to build these robots, is kind of weird. So I'm curious. Matt, thoughts?
I don't know. I think personally she's still kind of torn between, the Maddox view and kind of the Picard view. Like she doesn't really know where she's falling. She has her orders. There's certain things she wants to accomplish, but she probably is still afraid of the Borg in some way. I mean, everyone is, and would make sense to me. I would be afraid to go on the cube.
Well, also in the last episode, the prior episode, she was talking to Bruce Maddox, and they were talking about the twins, and all of a sudden it's like, she actually knows them. Maybe there's a fear of being recognized if they do run into Soji. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's too simple. But
Oh yeah, that's a good point, right?
Yeah.
So she doesn't want to get caught as being maybe like the other creator of Soji. So, So,
Yeah.
all right. So we know. I'm kind of getting down to my question, unless there's anything else, any other points you want to bring up. But I guess the last big question is, where are we going next? We know that we're going to the planet the Panther in the next episode that's coming up this Thursday. We know that apparently Will Riker is going to be piping in. At the end of this episode, Elnor is not with Team Picard. He stays behind on the cube to defend their retreat. And it's clear that Hugh has been hiding some of the Borg technology from the Romulans because they did not know where this Queen's chamber was.
Did he though? Because he mentions like I just know it, and Picard, he and Picard have that exchange of like the layout is in me and I didn't know it was here. I wasn't sure if he guided them out of knowledge or instinct.
Well, that's a good question. I guess we're going to find that out soon because I had thought that they know everything when they need to go access it, go look for it.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't kind of telling all of that to his Romulan overlords, if you will.
I mean, that was how I interpreted it. Some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some comeuppance, it seems like, there. Do we think Elnor made it?
Probably.
It's
Yeah.
I don't know if the show's that cool.
Yeah.
They really haven't done enough with him,
Yeah.
and
No,
killing
no
a
one.
kid is.
Yeah, he's been in only 2 episodes. No, he's got to survive somehow.
Yeah.
I hope come to a more mature understanding of his relationship with Picard. Stuff like that.
So I guess we learned about 2 other things. So we know that they're going to this planet, the Panther. We know that Riker maybe is appearing in this next episode. That's what the teaser.
Jonathan Frakes is appearing. We don't necessarily know which Riker it is. We're assuming it's.
Yeah, Matt thinks it's Thomas Riker.
I didn't say I think it's Thomas Riker. It could
We
be.
threw it out there.
There is Thomas Riker does have a history of masquerading as Will, so
This is the transporter reflection of Will Riker that they found in TNG, and then he went off to join the Maquis.
yeah. And again, I'm not saying I necessarily think that's the case, but Picard has so far shown that it's willing to do basically anything and everything with the older characters. So it's not impossible that at some point in the past, Tom has killed Will, took his place, and now is masquerading as him, and to get in with Picard somehow to help the Romulans. I don't know if Thomas Riker had any background with the Romulans. I don't remember.
Well,
but
as the Maquis, I'm sure they would have done anything to fight those guys.
No, absolutely. But I think that's sort of my way of saying anything is on the table with this show, for better or worse.
Yeah, and if we're going to talk about evil twins, I really hope that we get to see Elnor.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a given, isn't it? I mean, you got to at some point.
I don't know. We've been wondering about where I know I have where Lorne has been this entire time. We were talking about Data and his family, and if he's even out there activated in some way or fashion. So I don't know. Theories. You had a great theory a while back that you had found on Reddit about Rios. I'm still wondering. I mean, is the jury still out about him being a hologram or not?
I don't know. I feel like every episode there's some evidence for, some evidence against. I don't know. I do find it weird that we haven't seen really any of the other holograms lately. I don't know what that means.
Do you have any more juicy?
Reddit theories?
Yes.
None this week, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Well, we gotta get those Redditors to
Yeah,
get at
start
it.
feeding us. Yeah.
So, how about you, Dave? What we can end with you? What are you hoping to see in episode 7? It actually is called the Pen. So.
Some thematics on forgetting. And I mean, this episode is all about remembering, and I'm hoping to see not just a lot of Soji remembering, but Picard sort of working with her and wondering why he's been on this quest this whole time. So I'm really excited to see on the Panther what we're going to do with this whole Soji next generation of synths, and why we've been chasing for half a season.
Yeah, well, we'll get back to you as soon as we find out. But I think that's about all the time we've got for the Picard panel today. We will be back after episode 7 to find out what happened to Soji. Did Elnor survive? What's the deal with Rafi and her many addictions? And really, can we see Rios playing soccer again? Because that was lovely to see. So do tune in. Thank you for following. Go ahead and like and subscribe. If you like this, join us at space.com, at Tom's Guide, at TechRadar, and at Life Science. And we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper. Thanks for joining us. I tell you, it's gonna be exciting to find out what's gonna happen when they get there.
Yeah, they're finally ramping up. It's
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
had to like stutter stop them with like so many stops, you know, over the planet to collect his crew and then like find